Okay, imagine this for a second. What if we could tell exactly how a new drug would act in your body, long before it ever gets to a clinical trial? Sounds like science fiction, right? Well, today we're diving into some pretty groundbreaking AI that's doing just that. It's building these amazing digital blueprints of molecules, and it could totally change the game for making safer, better medicines.
All right, so here's the plan. We're going to start with the big problem, why so many new drugs just don't make it. Then we'll get into the really cool part, how AI is learning to think like a chemist. We'll break down 4 of the most advanced methods it's using, talk about how well they're working, and what the big challenges are. And finally, we'll look ahead at what all this means for the future of drug prediction.
First things first, let's talk about the biggest roadblock in drug discovery, the one thing that stops so many potential cures from ever reaching you and me.
You know, this is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? For decades, drug companies have been scratching their heads over this. A new molecule can look absolutely perfect in a petri dish, a real superstar. But the moment it gets into a living, breathing system, everything can go wrong. So, what is this great filter that weeds so many of them out?
Well, a lot of the time, the answer boils down to this one acronym, ADMET. It sounds a bit technical, but it's really just the story of a drug's life in the body. A is for absorption. Can it even get in? D for distribution. Where does it go? M is for metabolism. How does the body break it down? E for excretion. How does it get out? And the big one, T for toxicity. Is it going to cause harm? If a drug fails at any one of these stages, boom, it's game over.
And right at the heart of that M, metabolism, you've got these incredible proteins. They're called cytochrome P450 enzymes, but let's just call them CYPs. Now, you can think of them as the body's security guards and cleanup crew all rolled into one. They're the ultimate gatekeepers, deciding what gets processed, what gets broken down, and how.
And just how important are they? Well, get this. Over 75%, that's more than 3/4 of all the medicines you can buy, are handled by these CYP enzymes. So yeah, figuring out how a new drug is going to play with them, it's not just important, it is absolutely everything.
Okay, so that's the problem, right? Predicting these super complex chemical reactions? So, what's the solution? Well, it's pretty amazing, actually. The answer is to teach AI to speak the language of chemistry.
You see, the old way of doing this was, well, kinda clumsy. Scientists would have to sit there and manually feed a computer information about a molecule. This part is important, look at this bond. It took forever, and you'd inevitably miss things. But this new graph-based approach, it's a total game changer. It basically just shows the AI the whole molecule as a network and says, here, you figure it out. And it does.
And the core idea is so elegant. You take a molecule, any molecule, and you turn it into a simple network map, a graph. Every atom is a dot, or a node, and every chemical bond between them is a line, an edge. And just like that, you have this perfect digital blueprint. It's a language the AI can read instantly, just like you'd read a subway map.
So once you have this new language, this idea of molecules as graphs, you can build some seriously powerful tools. And that's what researchers have done. Let's dive into the 4 main strategies they're using right now to predict how drugs will behave.
So, we've got the foundational stuff, GNNs and GCNs. Then there's explainable AI, which is all about making sure we can understand the AI's thinking. After that, there's multitask learning, which is a super efficient way to train these models. And finally, you've got hybrid models, which kind of mix and match different kinds of data.
All right, let's start with the first one. Graph neural networks, or GNNs. You can think of these as the real workhorses here. What they do is pretty cool. They essentially crawl all over that molecular graph we talked about, looking at each atom, its connections, its neighbors, and figuring out how everything fits together. The key thing is they do this all on their own. They automatically find the patterns that actually matter, no human help needed.
Okay, so GNNs can make a prediction. But that's not enough, right? If an AI says a drug is toxic, a scientist is going to ask, why? That's where explainable AI, or XAI, is so crucial. And this quote here nails it. XAI is like giving the AI a highlighter. After it makes a prediction, it can go back and color in the parts of the molecule, the specific atoms that led it to that conclusion. It's like seeing the AI's thought process laid out visually.
Then we have number 3, multitask learning, or MTL. This is all about efficiency. Instead of building one AI model to predict toxicity and another one to predict absorption and another, You get the idea. With MTL, you build one single super smart model and train it to do everything at once. And what's wild is that by learning all these things together, it often gets better at each individual task because it starts to see the underlying connections between them.
And last but not least, we have the hybrid models. These are the throw everything at it models. They take the cool graph structure we've been talking about, but then they add in other types of data too. Things like molecular fingerprints, which are basically just little codes that describe a molecule's features. It's like a detective who doesn't just rely on the crime scene photos. They also pull in DNA evidence, fingerprint analysis, all of it, to get the most complete picture possible.
So, we've got these 4 really smart approaches. They sound great on paper, but the big question is, how well do they really work? And what are the challenges that are still holding them back?
And this chart here really sums it up nicely, right? You've got GNNs, their main job is to learn on their own. XAI is all about trust and interpretability, seeing the why. Multitask learning is for speed and efficiency. And hybrid models, they're trying to get the most complete picture by using all the data they can.
But, of course, it's not perfect. There are some major hurdles that researchers are constantly bumping up against. First, there's generalizability. Like, a model might be great at predicting drugs that look like the ones it's already seen, but can it handle a totally new, weird-looking molecule? Second, scalability. These things can take a ton of computer power to run. And third, and maybe the most important, is making sure those XAI explanations are actually trustworthy enough to bet a patient's health on.
But even with those challenges, the future here is looking incredibly exciting. Researchers have a pretty clear roadmap for where to go next to make these models even more powerful.
So here's the game plan. Number 1, get better data. They need bigger, cleaner, more standardized data sets for the AI to learn from. 2, build specialist models. Instead of one AI that knows a little bit about all the CYP enzymes, let's build experts that know everything about just one. 3, create a level playing field. We need standard tests so we can actually compare these different models fairly. And 4, the reality check. We have to constantly test these computer predictions against what happens in a real-world lab. You can't skip that step.
Okay, so let's wrap this all up. The big takeaway is this. A lot of drugs fail, and it's usually because of those tricky CYP enzymes. But now, by turning molecules into maps that AI can read, we can start predicting that behavior. We've got 4 powerful ways to do it: GNNs, XAI, MTL, and hybrids. And the next big step is just tackling those challenges we talked about to really let this technology fly.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating thought for the future. Right now, AI is getting amazing at predicting how drugs will work. But as these digital blueprints get better and better, when does AI stop being just a predictor and start becoming the actual chemist, the one that designs the drugs from scratch? That line is getting thinner and thinner.